to round up wild horses and burros with your tax dollars and mine. While 600 meat inspectors will be laid off this year, 2014, according to Stan Painter, who is the CEO of the National Joint Council of Meat Inspectors. You can go to his site and read all the violations that are happening and all the safety measures that are supposed to protect the public from unsafe meat are not being met. There's something wrong here, and who's responsible? It's your representatives, so I hope that you'll call them. Ebola can be transferred to animals. Doesn't take much for a terrorist, what we call a terrorist, to come over to this country having infected himself with Ebola and transferring it to our food. So these are real threats, and we need as much money as possible to deter this. And your representatives need to be told. So I hope that you will contact them. This is Meat America. Thanks for watching. We are now going to watch a segment on lab meat. So that's coming along. That'll be a choice for meat eaters. Let's see what they have to say here.
This is a technology that can be transferred to other animals as long as they have these stem cells in their skeletal muscle, which most animals do. It can be transferred to other animals like fish, chicken, other lamb.
Hanne, you have eaten, tasted, digesting. Your thoughts, what did it taste like?
I was expecting the texture to be more soft. There's really a bite to it. And there is quite some flavor with the browning. And I know there's no fat in it, so I didn't really know how juicy it will be. But there's quite some intense taste. It's close to meat. It's not that juicy. But the consistency is perfect. I miss salt and pepper.
And no ketchup, Richard. No ketchup. My goodness, Josh.
But
does it taste like beef? Does it taste like beef?
The texture, the mouth feel has a feel like meat. You know what Hanne was just saying. The absence is, I feel like the fat. You know, like it's a leanness to it. But the bite, you know, feels like you know, a conventional hamburger.
I love a good veggie corn dog or a garden burger. It's nice to eat something tasty that didn't have a mom. But I also like meat because of how delicious it is. So, how do I live with myself? Well, for now I don't, but we're getting closer than ever to having a fascinating alternative for those of us who don't want to eat the flesh of a once-living animal, but do want to eat the flesh of a once-living animal. Can I interest you in some real meat that was created in a laboratory? In vitro meat is what I hear it called most often, but that is a horrible name. No one is ever going to buy that. Some alternatives include cultured meat, test tube meat, hydroponic meat, and my personal least favorite, schmeat. And it's for real. In vitro meat has already been produced in very small quantities in several labs, including one in the Netherlands that's grown a piece of cow and pig muscle about 3 centimeters long and 1 centimeter wide. As to the science of this, which is why we're here in the first place, how do you grow meat? Basically, you do it the same way the animals do it. You start with stem cells and then you feed them. Some labs are starting out with embryonic stem cells, others extract specialized stem cells found in animals' muscle tissue called satellite cells. Either way, those cells are then cultured in a petri dish full of amino acids and lipids and other nutrients to start the growth process. The cells are then attached to a scaffold of collagen gel that allows them to organize themselves into muscle fibers and then eventually into muscle tissue. But like any muscle, this one needs to be exercised or else it will atrophy and be not tasty at all. So scientists apply electrical impulses to the tissue to stimulate it, giving it the workout it needs. Do this enough times and in theory you'll eventually get a ham or something. Now there are lots of ethical and environmental arguments for making meat in a lab. Often I'll hear people say that in vitro meat sounds gross and unnatural, but there really isn't much that's more gross and unnatural than the way that we currently produce meat. And that's not even to mention the amount of land and energy and water that's needed to raise food animals is astronomical and growing every year. Oxford University researchers have predicted that cultured meat could be produced with 96% fewer greenhouse gas emissions, 99% less land use, and 96% less water than conventional meat. But still, yes, there are many hurdles keeping in vitro meat from the mainstream, most importantly the cost. That little morsel of cow meat grown in the Netherlands, making a complete hamburger would require 30,000 more strips of that tissue, each of which takes 6 weeks to produce. By the time you're ready to fire up the grill, scientists estimate you're looking at a $250,000 burger. As an incentive to make lab meat more cost-effective, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals has offered a $1 million reward to the first scientist to create in vitro chicken that's cheap enough to bring to market. So even though in vitro meat probably won't be part of our daily diets anytime soon, it's still an idea whose time has come. In fact, 80 years ago, Winston Churchill actually predicted that we'd all be eating Kentucky Fried Lab chicken someday. Within 50 years, we shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat the breast or wing by growing these parts separately under a suitable medium. Well said, Winston. You may have been quite a few decades off, but still a pretty good prediction. So, when lab meat does show up in the grocery stores, what do you think we're going to call it? Because somehow I don't think Schmeat's going to fly off the shelves. If you have a better name, let us know below in the comments. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow. I hope that it doesn't totally gross you out, the idea of eating meat that's made in a lab, because kind of eating meat that's made on an animal is kind of gross. So remember that. Please join the intelligent and nuanced debate going on in the comments. No flame wars. And if you want to keep getting smarter with us, go to youtube.com/scishow and subscribe.
The United States Department of Agriculture reported that in 2008, over 35 million cattle, over 116 million pigs, and over 18 billion chickens were killed for meat in the United States. This does not include the animals that died on farms, that died during transportation, or the 100 million baby male chicks that were killed because they were useless to the egg companies. The meat industry wastes natural resources and pollutes our earth. The meat industry wastes resources with land, food, water, and fossil fuels. Another resource wasted is food. 70% of the grain and cereals grown in the United States is fed to farm animals. To produce 1 pound of meat, 16 pounds of grain is needed. 30% of Earth's landmass is used to raise animals as food. Livestock grazing has become the #1 reason plant species become extinct. That's also led to soil erosion and eventually desertification. Meat production also wastes water. Half of the water in the United States goes towards raising animals for food. In the production of meat, fossil fuels are also wasted. Fossil fuels including coal, oil, and natural gas. Fossil fuels are used to transport animals to the slaughterhouse. Animals travel sometimes days in a truck, crowded without food or water, and sometimes not even breaks. After the slaughterhouse, the animals are taken to a meat processing plant. From there, they are taken to the grocery store, where the meat is refrigerated until being sold. These places that hold the animals, whether feed mills, slaughterhouses, or processing plants, use an enormous amount of electricity, tens of thousands of animals are killed each day. As well as wasting resources, the meat industry also pollutes our environment. The United Nations reported that the meat, egg, and dairy industry account for 65% of the worldwide nitrous oxide emissions. The Environmental Protection Agency, better known as EPA, has said animal production is the single largest source of methane gas emissions in the United States. This is probably the result of the large amount of animal waste coming from factory farming. 89,000 pounds of feces is created per second. There is little regulation on how factory farms have to treat, store, or dispose of their waste. Which brings me to my next topic, water contamination and the meat industry. For myself, it's been almost 2 months since I've stopped eating meat, and it's been a lot easier than I ever imagined. It's rewarding to know that I'm not supporting any animal cruelty or further degradation of our environment.
Is eating meat bad karma? What is karma? Karma literally means action in Sanskrit. The types of actions we perform get an equal and sometimes opposite reaction, whether we want it or not. Compassion and mercy should supersede our desire to satisfy our gullets, our senses. Over 56 billion animals are killed each year. That's 3,000 animals are killed for food in slaughterhouses every second. That's every second. 3,000 animals are killed for food. And we wonder why our society is full of crime, pain, various atrocities. Nations are fighting amongst themselves. Societies and unrest. And we wonder why. We are causing our own demise. We are not realizing the pain and the suffering we cause to others is inflicted back towards us through various means, whether it's wars, whether it's various other sorts of crimes. And we think this is a normal part of society. So is eating meat bad karma? We have cows, pigs, chickens, and other animals put in places and stalls and locations what they're naturally unaccustomed to. These animals are meant to be free and roam around and have feelings and emotions and love and experience their natural way of life. But if they're stuffed in a short and very hard way of life in a cage or a bin where they cannot move, where they cannot communicate with each other, what is the result? The result is we eat what their consciousness is at the time of their dying. Whatever the types of consciousness is in the food when we eat it, that's the type of consciousness we develop. In ancient spiritual cultures such as Eastern cultures, foods are divided into 3 groups. One of them is in tamagun, or mode of ignorance. When we eat food in the mode of ignorance, we are accustomed to and become ignorant. So is eating meat bad karma? Just to satisfy our gullets, we may eat a steak, we may eat bacon, we may eat whatever it is that we want. This is so because it tastes good. Does meat taste good? We are brainwashed by media to think that this is normal, part of the food group. But ancient societies thrived on vegetarian, vegan diets. We are not meant to eat meat. causing others, especially our animal brethren, to suffer, is going to be rewarded back to us, whether we know it or not. This is not a fear tactic. This is not a way to sway your opinion towards mine. This is the fact that we separate mother cows from their calves. We separate fellow animals when they do not want to be separated from their own brethren, and take them to slaughterhouses forcefully to meet their impending doom. So, is eating meat bad karma? Focus on the fact that every animal has pain, feelings, and emotions. They want to share these pains, emotions, and feelings with other animals. And when we do not let them have their natural way of life, then why should we have a right to have a natural way of life? We eat pigs and chickens and cows, but we own our own pets. We love our dogs and cats. Why the hypocrisy? Why is it okay to eat pigs and cows and chickens and not a dog or your pet? I'm sure that would be outrageous. So when we think that we have a right to choose over what and how one lives its life, we are committing one of the greatest acts of karma.
Well, the basic causes of environmental problems at factory farms are the same causes of food safety problems, and that's just too much manure in too small a space and not enough oversight and regulation. There have been lots of examples of food safety problems, like the salmonella in egg problem. It's a product of both poor regulation of manure and an outdated food safety system.
Perfect timing.
We've come to discover over the last few years that animal agriculture is responsible for a huge portion of greenhouse gas emissions. And again, that goes from all the ingredients that go into making modern meat. Experts estimate that about 18% of all greenhouse gas emissions are a result of animal agriculture.
Wow, 18%? Today's gonna be a good day, today's gonna be a good day, today I'm going home, I'm gonna go home. I'm going home. No, going to work, going to work, going to work. Today's gonna be a good day.
Well, there are lots of ways that the environment is being affected by factory farms. I mean,
I wonder if Nell knows about this.
Are the water
I gotta email him.
The air pollution caused by all of the waste that these animals, I mean, if you look at, for instance, a hog farm in Utah where there are 50,000 hogs, they're creating more waste than Salt Lake City. Those are the obvious problems.
I can't eat this. This whole factory farm system is screwed up, but what am I supposed to do about it?
You know, when we eat well, we feel good about it, we feel good about ourselves, and we feel good physically. So changing how we eat can have profound impacts on ourselves as well as on the environment and on the world, ultimately.
Meat? No meat. Meat? I don't feel like I want to eat this right now. No meat. Do. Let's see here. Dinner's gonna be good. Dinner's gonna be good. Dinner is gonna be good. They're gonna love this. They're gonna love it. Veggie, healthy, good stuff. Ah, Hello? May I introduce you to a meatless taco night? Enjoy. I can get used to this.
Susie, and I'm the National Shelter Director of Farm Sanctuary, and today we're going to discuss turkeys. It's our annual Adopt a Turkey time. We have a big program for our turkeys. We like to celebrate our turkeys this time of year because it's the time of year when so many of them are killed for food, and we want to make sure that people see turkeys the way we see them, as living, sentient beings. This is Daphne, and Daphne is one of our Adopt a Turkeys this year. Daphne is from a local cruelty case. So she was actually confiscated by an SPCA officer. She was most likely being raised for a Thanksgiving dinner, which is very sad to think about.
$9 million a year to round up wild horses and burros, while 600 meat inspectors will be laid off this year. Something's really wrong here. And who's responsible? Your representatives. Especially those in the Ag Appropriations Committee, a small little committee of which Sam Farr, our own congressman here in Monterey, is a part of. I hope you will call them and express the need to make sure our food security is looked after. Thanks for watching Meet America.
On December 11th, 2006, the New York Times wrote the article, "Has Politics Contaminated the Food Supply?" In it they said, "This fall has brought plenty of bad news about food poisoning. More than 200 people in 26 states were sickened and 3 people were killed by spinach contaminated with E. coli. At least 183 people in 21 states got salmonella from tainted tomatoes served at restaurants. And more than 160 people in New York, New Jersey, and other states were sickened with E. coli after eating at Taco Bell restaurants." People are always going to get food poisoning. The idea that every meal can be risk-free, germ-free, and sterile is the sort of fantasy Howard Hughes might have entertained. But our food can be much safer than it is right now. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 76 million Americans are sickened, 325,000 are hospitalized, and 5,000 die each year because of something they ate. Here are just a few similar outbreaks found within our nation's food supply just a few days prior to the making of this video. Is there something seriously wrong with our nation's food supply? This, unfortunately, is just the tip of the iceberg in relation to the problems in the food we buy and eat.
You
wonder, what's up with his hair? You wonder.
All of them, Pennsylvania being heavily enforced.
Mm-hmm.
They bring tremendous amounts of revenue to their state if they catch one.
Mm-hmm.
And
good.
Yes. And New Jersey, I believe.
Mm-hmm. California, I think, is another one.
California, yes, I believe is the other one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's two other ones. So McMorris Rogers' phone number is...
Let's give the switchboard number. That's easy.
Yes.
What you do is you just call the switchboard. And, the switchboard number is 202-225-3121, isn't it? Or
that's not the one I use. I use 1-800.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 1-800... I'm not going to be able to remember it. Never mind. I have to think of it.
Okay.
1-800-428... can't remember that one either. Oh, I have to go check.
That's okay.
Never mind. I don't usually use the other one, but
okay. The switchboard is 202-225-3121. And so you just ask for your senator. Like if you don't even know who your senator is, you can give your zip code.
Yes.
And get on these people, please. You know, I'm addressing you people out there that have a heart and, you know, have the energy to pick up a phone and write a letter. That's so important, you know. Yeah, look at that beautiful, eye. Yeah, oh, what an eye, what an eye. How could anyone hurt an eye like that, you know? So beautiful. That's a large horse, isn't it?
Yes.
You say that horses are the least protected animal in the United States? Why is that?
Least protected domestic animal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
How come?
I believe because they fall in the gray area, what they call a gray area. They can be considered livestock if you are using them as a livelihood, and you're breeding. Then you don't pay taxes, and people like me who have been feeding horses for 40 years, I pay tax on everything because I'm not a breeder. I don't use them as... And so they fall in that gray area. The USDA considers them livestock, and the our FDA considers them a companion animal, which they have always been.
Well, we've run out of time for this segment, and I want to thank you so much for caring for the horses. And folks out there, please get active for the horses. You owe it to the horses, and you owe it to God to be good to God's animals. And don't join those people that have no heart and are cruel to animals. Don't be one of them. Thanks for listening. Okay. So